Okay, so we're just going to go through the PowerPoint and some of the highlights of the passport accountability system as we transition from our old tags to this new system. I'm not going to read every single slide to you guys, but obviously the purpose of this is to maintain accountability real time, so we know where our crews are at, what they're doing during emergency operations inside the hazard zone. And that's probably one of the biggest changes. The focus of this predominantly is on the units in the hazard zone. So that's defined as any area that requires an SCBA or an environment in which a firefighter is at risk of becoming lost, trapped, injured, including but not limited to, obviously structure fires, technical rescue, hazmat, wildland, urban interface. May also be mass casualty medical calls. Some place where we have a lot of people operating in an area that they could be in danger, or we need to keep individual track of personnel and units. So the system components, first of all, you have the company and unit accountability cards. The company cards are 2 inches by 4 inches. They have the department ID and the type of apparatus. So it'll say Engine 1 HCFR. The company one is red. That's the one that will be carried by the company officer, and the unit tag is white. That is the one that, as our policy stands right now, the driver operator is predominantly responsible for. They're going to be on the doors or the cab or in the dash. The company officers will make the decision as to where they need to be located in the cab of the vehicle, but someplace that's conspicuous and can be easily found. Each of the frontline apparatus will also get a POV response tag. Currently, we've sent those to the career apparatus. Eventually, the volunteer frontline engines will also get those. So the name tags, everyone should have already received. They're a 1/2 inch by 2 inch tag. They'll have your first name, last initials, and rank. Volunteers are only going to have firefighter behind theirs or their rank if they're a captain, lieutenant. The career personnel will have medical certification. If we have a volunteer paramedic who wants their medical certification on there, we'll certainly be able to print tags for them. The colors are assigned. White is operations personnel, all operations personnel regardless of rank. Red are hazardous materials technicians, and those tags will be kept on Squad 23. They will only be used in the event of a hazmat incident. Yellow are your methamphetamine specialists. Those tags also will be at Station 23. They would only use those in the event of a meth lab call where their technicians are operating as specialists. Blue has been issued to technical rescue personnel. They'll be kept on the heavy rescues. Orange has been issued to non-entry personnel. So these are not your support services people. They are your driver operators only. The people who are EMS only certified, they are not fire entry personnel. And gray is for administrative. Those tags you will probably only see in the event of a large incident where we've expanded to where logistics, finance, communications, those types of positions in the command structure have been established. So this just goes over how we will operate with them, and the video will explain this. But on arrival on the scene, the white accountability card will be placed on the Velcro on the pump panel of the first arriving engine. If the accountability has already been established, you'll take that white tag to the IC or the accountability officer. It just depends on where we're at in the incident. If a member arrives POV and isn't immediately attached to the unit, so they'll go to the same place wherever the unit's keeping their tags, front door or the cab, and get the POV tag. They'll place that on the pump panel with their name on there. That will designate to the incident commander that they have available manpower who came POV but is not currently attached to a unit. So the example I gave you is a volunteer from Station 4 arrives and they're already committed to fire attacks. So ladder 4 is inside. The member is going to obtain the POV tag and report to the IC for an assignment, not directly into the structure. So we're not going to have freelancing. The guy's not going to show up, throw his tag on ladder 4, and run inside behind them once they're already committed to firefighting unless he's assigned to do so by the incident commander. So your initial accountability officer could be anybody, a driver, a division group officer, designated accountability officer. It depends on the nature, type, and complexity of the incident. Initially, your first accountability officer is going to be the first two driver operator. He's probably going to just collect tags. Once the battalion chiefs or the third arriving engine officer arrives on scene, they'll start accountability, as provided they're not tied up initially with operations or tactics. If the driver operator has to remain remote of the incident scene, so we're going to leave him at the hydrant, the company officer needs to bring both tags. That white unit accountability tag is the one that goes on the accountability board. It's the one that's going to be outside. The red tag is the company officer's. He'll keep it with him. But if he doesn't come up with both tags, the system won't be able to operate appropriately. He won't have crew accountability on his tag, or the battalion chief won't have accountability outside because you don't have both tags. An upside down name tag, which is how the first two driver operators would look, indicates somebody operating outside the structure. So if the engine 1 driver operator is actually pumping the fire, his name tag will be upside down while the crew is inside fighting fire. That indicates to command who is in the hazard zone and who is outside. This just goes over how we're going to implement the system. We will have some sort of passport at the command post will accurately reflect those members in the hazard zone. The unit accountability card will remain a conspicuous location on the units. That's a single company incident. So, excuse me, engine 1 goes to, for a single company incident, the unit accountability card will remain a conspicuous location on the units. This needs to be on or near the driver's door, and we talked about that a little bit earlier. It might be on the dash. It just depends on the layout of your fire truck. For example, in the M&Ws, ours are mounted on the dog box in the middle where our lights controls are. It just depends on the type of apparatus you have. I'm not going to pull my passport off on a single unit brush fire. However, if that incident expanded, the command officer or the battalion chief, whoever established accountability, would be able to go retrieve those tags. In a larger incident, in the absence of a chief officer, we briefly talked about earlier, the third arriving engine officer, if not otherwise committed, will assume accountability responsibilities. As the tactical manuals are revised, this may change to a different unit. For now, that's the way we're going to operate. So, multi-company operations and level 1 staging. Okay, if you're ordered to level 1 stage, we don't expect you to take your passport to the first arriving engine before you report to your staging location. However, as you're called to the actual incident scene, the white accountability card will be delivered to the command post or placed on the first arriving engine pump panel if there isn't a command post yet. So, engine 1 was level 1 staging at the hydrant. They've now been called up for their thermal imager. I'm just using examples. Once they're called from the hydrant up to the scene, then they will place that white tag on the pump panel, not prior to taking their staging assignment. In second alarm or greater responses, or we have a level 2 staging situation, which is staging remote in a designated area, there will be a staging officer. Typically, standard operating procedures is that's the first officer who arrives in staging or one designated by the incident commander. They'll ensure that the white unit accountability cards reflects the crew's assignment, and they will hold those cards so that they can report to command who they have in staging or what resources, depending on the incident type. Once they're assigned by the incident commander or staging releases somebody to the scene, the company officer will go get that white card from the staging officer and then give it to the accountability officer on the scene. They'll take it with them. It won't remain in staging. So the yellow status boards are being delivered out. They're carried on all first line career fire apparatus, as well as the battalion chief, the duty officer, and other designated supervisors. The volunteer and career battalion chiefs have status boards. So they're capable of tracking single alarm incidents. They have Velcro in order to attach passwords, and they can be expanded on upon the arrival of a chief officer in the event of an incident if it's so required. So the initial yellow boards are single-sided that are going on the engines, and they're just for basic initial operations. Once the battalion chief gets there, he can take that board and add it onto his if needed and have multiple boards to create however many divisions, groups, or each unit needs to be accounted for. There may be instances where magnetic or other expanded boards are used in the event of a large incident at the discretion of the incident commander. Sometimes when they go to Station 45, they have a large magnetic board that they use during Memorial Day. That's not going to replace passport on a structure fire, but it may be used in that capacity there. Your personal accountability report or PAR report is something that we haven't consistently done. We're going to transition to trying to do it consistently. The company officer, that'll make sure, as a reminder, that all your members assigned to you are accounted for. For the division officer, it's an account of everybody operating on your division. They need to be conducted face-to-face within the company or the division whenever possible. The PAR checks will be conducted by the incident commander when possible or at the recommended time increments. We're obviously not forcing anyone to do it at certain times at this point. We're just recommending standard increments of when to call for PARs. So when you're answering, ideally you're going to be giving Luna, which is where are you, who are you, how many personnel do you have assigned, and how much air do you have. The air supply that you report is the air of the lowest member in your group. So if it's a company and the guy operating with you has 3,200 but you have 40, you're going to report that your air supply is 3,200 because obviously we're going to leave together since we came together. So who am I? How many people do I have operating with me? Where am I at? What's my assignment? And what's my air? This also allows the battalion chief or the person conducting the accountability to make sure everyone is doing what they thought they were doing and everyone's at. It seems silly on a single-wide structure fire. If we practice it on the small incidents, when we're dealing with that high-rise fire or we're dealing with a fire where people operating in multiple locations doing lots of different tasks, we'll be better at the overall game there. At the discretion of the incident commander, crew members can respond with the name of other crew members. So if your battalion chief wants to know the names of the personnel operating with your unit, you will give those, and that's at his discretion. So all units reporting PAR shall advise if an assigned member is not physically present with that crew. If I'm giving mine for my unit, I'm going to say Engine 43 has a PAR of 2, drivers at the pump panel of Engine 43. In such cases, the incident commander will check with the driver directly. Engine 43A, do you have a PAR? We're using the Alpha or A and Bravo is B for the driver, operator, and officer positions. So PAR checks may only be interrupted by emergency traffic. In other words, we all need to kind of be quiet for a second. If we can maintain a little bit of radio silence, it shouldn't take very long. We're not looking for an update on what you're doing. We're looking for where you're at and what you're doing. So they'll also be required at the following events. Any report of a missing or trapped firefighter, any change from offensive to defensive operation, a sudden hazardous event at the incident, so flashover, collapse, some drastic change in smoke conditions where the incident commander feels it necessary. Or we're recommending every 15-minute interval incidents elapse time or at the IC's discretion. If he chooses to do it every 20 minutes or every 10, that's up to him. So the rules need to be followed for the accountability system to operate correctly. Passports must be maintained at the command vehicle during large or complex incidents. That's the actual white unit tags. They need to reflect only personnel that are assigned to the incident. In other words, if the guy got off this morning and forgot to pull his tag off, don't take that tag up there with his name on it. It could cause a problem when we go looking for firefighters later. And we all know there's the potential for a guy to be working overtime. So there's no way to say for sure someone's not there if we're not making sure we maintain those tags. Units assigned must stay intact when possible to maintain accountability. Listen, on a single wide, do we sometimes split up crews because we have no choice? Yes. We're just saying when it's possible to maintain crew integrity that we need to do so. Do I expect you to pull your tag off in the single wide while you're fighting the fire and hand it to the company officer? No, but I do expect the company officer to be able to say that person is with their crew. If there's an ability to update the tag at a later point when it makes sense, that's great. We all need to exercise a little common sense when we're using this system. If the crews are separated by command, the unit accountability tag should change to reflect the correct assignments when it's possible, okay? We're not asking you to delay operations to update the tags. We're just asking you to make sure that you maintain accountability. The white tag can be updated outside. The red tag, the company officer should update when they get a chance. Okay, so lost or missing firefighters. If a crew member If an absent member of a crew will be assumed to be lost or trapped in the hazard zone until otherwise determined safe. And that's kind of what I said earlier about making sure you keep those tags right. If the guy's not there, don't have his tag on there. The company officers need to immediately report any absent member to the IC. You had a guy right behind you, you turned around, he's gone. We need to make sure we tell somebody right away that person's not there, especially if they didn't tell us they were leaving. If they're exiting the building because you have enough manpower and we're dealing with that very small structure, I can watch them walk out the front door. I'm not going to switch out my whole crew. We need to make sure we report. Firefighter Joe Smith just left the building, low air alarm, we still have adequate manpower. Whatever it is that is going on. If there's a report of a missing firefighter, command should consider calling for the next greater alarm. We've all been through RIT training, hopefully, and we know that it takes a large number of firefighters to rescue one missing firefighter. It's a consideration for the command. They can always be canceled, and that is obviously up to them, but we don't want to wait till we don't have enough help to resolve that issue. Searching for missing firefighters are going to begin in the area of the last reported location. That's pretty standard. Command responsibilities, they need to include PAR as a major element of strategy and tactics. We need to start making sure we know where people are and getting in that habit of using that report so that when we really do need it, we're all proficient at it. React to all barriers that influence accountabilities. If we're finding that we don't carry our tags, it's command's responsibility to say, you know what, you don't have your tag, you're not going to go home. They do have makeup kits, and there is an ability for the battalion chief to make a kit. Ideally, those are designed for other agencies who aren't using the system, not because you decided not to bring your stuff to work today. They need to ensure that all members entering the hazard zone have radios and are supervised. I understand we don't always have radios to go around. They need to at least be attached to someone who has a radio until that issue is resolved. We need to make every effort to keep crews intact. Obviously, common sense, there may be times that that's not a possibility, but when we can, we're going to make those efforts. They're going to keep the updated accountability board, updated for crews that are split. If I do divide them, I just need to make sure that I mark that appropriately and move the names so that I know where the people are and what they're doing. And for second alarm incidents or higher, we need to assign at least one accountability officer. Your division group responsibilities. So if you have a division officer, we're going to maintain accurate tracking of companies assigned to our division. We're going to be in the assigned location to monitor those companies. In other words, if I'm Division 1, I don't need to be on Division 2. I need to be in the area that I'm assigned to, keeping an eye on what's going on. The division assignments are based on geographical location and incident. So Division 2 or Charlie side. Group assignments are based on task. That is your attack group, your search group, your vent group. And those are just some definitions as we go through. So company officers, we're going to talk about our responsibilities a little bit. We're going to make sure the passport cards reflect the names of the personnel assigned to the company. We need to keep all members assigned to the hazard zone intact at all times. If a crew member is not assigned to the hazard zone, leaves or is reassigned outside the building, the name can be turned upside down on the unit accountability card. That's the card outside, guys. That's not the red card in your hand. If you have time to flip tags, great. We're not expecting you to turn tags upside down inside on the red tag that you're carrying. The driver operator will have their name turned on upside down on the unit accountability card if they're at the apparatus pumping and not in the hazard zone. So we talked a little bit about that earlier. The only thing I want to clarify there is if you have a ladder driver who is operating the tower inside the hazard zone, they may need to be upside down, but it needs to be very clear who the driver operator is. One, the command will need to call them, and two, if they are in the bucket operating over, they are in the hazard scene, or in the hazard zone, Termination of accountability. Okay, so passport accountability systems shall be maintained until command is terminated. When you complete your assignment and you're released from the incident, pick your tags up, take them with you. We all know we've left tags before. We're trying to just remind you here to pick them up. That's all I have for you guys. Hopefully that answered some questions, and the video will give you some more clarification. If anyone has any questions, they're more than welcome to call or email me, and I'll try to help you through the process. Okay, so this is just an example of what you do with your tags in the morning. So the white tag is for the driver operator. Firefighter Stevens will go in and put his tag upside down on there because he's the driver operator. And Lieutenant Delp will then come in and she'll tag above her driver. And then Firefighter Stevens and Lieutenant Delp will go over and tag in also on the officer's tag. So on the apparatus in the morning, this is what your tags should look like. Anybody riding or coming in later would also then tag in. On arrival in an incident, the company officer will chain crew responsibility at all times. They'll be responsible for the red tag, which is the company tag. One option is to keep it in the pocket of your turnout gear. With the gear we currently have, there's no Velcro to keep it on. On arrival, the first due engine driver will start accountability by putting his white tag on the pump panel. And then go to work as a driver operator. As the other units arrive and come in, their drivers will tag in for accountability on the first due pumper. Each driver of the units designated by the white tag being upside down, their individual name. When the battalion chief arrives, he'll collect all the white tags and begin the accountability board. Okay, division command's been established, so Lieutenant Delp is Division 1. Engine 43 has been assigned to Division 1. That company officer will come up and give the red small half-inch tag. She now has accountability for Engine 23 and Engine 43. When the PAR check's done, she'll report a PAR for Engine 23 and how many people, location, what their task is, as well as herself, Engine 23.
Engine 23 is on location, single-story commercial structure. Heavy smoke showing from A side. Engine 23 has the hydrant. Engine 23 officer will have technology command. Type 2 copy. Engine 39, command.
Go ahead for Engine 39.
Engine 39, upon your arrival, I need you to be a TAC. Medic 39, command.
Go ahead for Medic 39.
Medic 39, upon your arrival, I will need you to be our 2 out.
Medic 39 copies, 2 out. Engine 39 copies, water supply. That's that.
Rescue 1, command.
Go ahead for Rescue 1.
Rescue 1, upon your arrival, I'm going to have you on primary search.
Copy. Primary search for Rescue 1.
All incoming unit for Engine 23 to complete a water supply. Battalion 2, technology command.
Go ahead for Battalion 2.
Battalion 2, give you an update. I have Engine 23, Engine 39, Medic 39, Rescue 1 on location. Medic 39 will be the Medic 39 will be the backup crew, Engine 39 is attack, and Rescue 1 is primary search.
Copy. Medic 39 is a 2 out. You have Engine 43 coming to you too. So I'll be there in a minute.
Affirmative. Copy. 43 is responding.
Is on location.
Engine 43, the technology command. Good. Going to meet you for a face-to-face.
Copy.
All units on the fire ground, Engine 23 officers, Division 1 supervisor.
Division 1.
Command, go ahead for Division 1.
Command, you have a PAR par for Division 1.
Rescue 1, Division 1, par.
Rescue 1 has par of 2, operating on Division 1 in the primary search. We're in the AB corner.
Division 1, you got par?
Engine 39 has par 2, fire attack. Our air supply is 25.
Copy, engine 39 has par. Medic 39, par.
Medic 39 has par 2, operating as the backup crew. Division Alpha, cylinders are full.
Command, Division 1. Good. I have par for engine 39, medic 39, and rescue 1, and myself. Copy.
Command Division 1.
Command, go ahead for Division 1.
I'm sending you Rescue 1 and Engine 39 to operate on Division 1 under you. 39 will be your attack route, Rescue 1 will be operating on search and vent.
So how we're set it up is, from the battalion chief standpoint, is the location will come on the top, where you at, what kind of building, incident type, and then as our fire attack, we can build our crews down. So if we have multiple companies on fire attack, we can build our companies down, and then the same thing with primary search, vent, and then we can separate them as for division, Division 1 primary, Division 2, depending on how you do it. So you can actually build them down as you go. FA, like for fire attack, a 2 out would be placed over on the other side, and then what I would do is battalion would be your commander. But here, like if we go to a commercial building, we need to have a RIT. So I do my RIT team, my initial 2 out, keep your backup line, and then your RIT you can build down below, and then you just stack the crews down as they go. As for your actual board, basically your checkoffs, the initial water supply, your 360 utilities too, and so it gives you a basic check of what you need to accomplish. Once you get those accomplished, you know what, obviously they're checked off, you know that that's completed, so it gives you, puts your game plan in order. And then what we can do is actually our people that are in charge, like Jimmy J.J. Walker, we put their tag up, take their operations, and as we build our incident, different levels of divisions and groups and stuff like that, we can build it down here. That way we know who's exactly assigned to that area at that time. We do all our notes down here in our diagram. Then if this board is small, like if our incident goes, obviously like with wildfires and different things like that, these boards can actually grow together. And then as the next battalion chief comes, we get the next set of boards, or we can peel them off all the engines and we can build them up and build them around. So we can actually have a very dynamic board for each area, each division, and then they can be broken down so you have an exact idea of where everybody's at and what everybody's doing on every incident. Peace out.